The Milwaukee Brewers right now are the hottest team in baseball. They've won 9 out of their last 10 series, and as of my recording right now, they're on an 8-game win streak. They're currently in their game against the Mets right now, so we'll see what happens. And what is the secret to all of this? Some may say it's pocket pancakes. Well, I know this is a waffle, but you just got to go with me for right now. Welcome back to Good Sports for You, where we're talking about good sports for you, and we're going to be talking about the hottest team in baseball right now and one of the biggest upstarts, and that's your Milwaukee Brewers. So to start off this journey, we're going to take you back to 2016. Now in 2016, the Brewers were in a bit of a rough patch, so they decided to hire a new manager. Milwaukee legend, Wisconsin's very own, Craig Counsell. In his tenure with the Milwaukee Brewers from 2016 to 2023, the Brewers had their most exciting and most successful run that they had arguably in their history, at least since the 1981 and 1982 Brewers. In that span, they were able to make the playoffs 5 of their 8 seasons, which was completely unheard of for the Milwaukee Brewers, who had only been to the playoffs 4 times in their entire franchise history up until that point. So the Brewers were feeling hot, they were feeling good, and then the world was shocked when Craig Counsell decided to leave the team to join the rival Chicago Cubs, where he signed an extremely lucrative deal. So he was hanging out over there with the division champions, and the Brewers were just left to rot, essentially. Now, all the national media thought exactly that the Brewers were left for dead. But the Brewers decided to hire their assistant coach, Pat Murphy, bump him up all the way to manager, and the whole entire team changed forever. Pat Murphy was able to do the one thing that Craig Counsell wasn't able to do in his tenure with the Milwaukee Brewers, and that was win the National League Coach of the Year. Craig was so close every single season, but he wasn't able to get it done. He finished second multiple times, but Pat Murphy in season number 1 was able to take this team that a lot of people didn't think was going to do a whole lot and turn it into a playoff team that ended up winning the NL Central, so that rightfully so earned him the National League Manager of the Year. But Pat Murphy has a very specific style of managing. He's kind of a tough love guy, but he builds a good culture. He's a fun-loving guy, and like I said, he carries pancakes around in his pocket. Craig Counsell would never do that. He was a very stiff, robotic type manager who would answer a lot of interviews going, yeah, the team wasn't enough today. Pat Murphy doesn't take that. He takes charge. He puts the blame where it needs to be blamed. He takes the blame himself. If a player isn't living up to his expectations, he says, hey, guess what? You're going to sit on the bench for a little bit, and that's fine. And he was able to build a culture and a community that said that was okay. He built a winning culture in Milwaukee that makes players excited to join the Milwaukee Brewers, and that has been the biggest difference. You can see it in players like Andrew Vaughn, who have come over in trade acquisitions, or like a Quinn Priester, who is kind of a middling starter, to turn them into legit caliber players who are starting lineup caliber players, starting rotation, guys that you want to start for your team. He's able to make them into those kinds of players given his culture. And beyond the culture aspect of it all, Pat Murphy is able to take this team of a bunch of average guys. The highest baseball reference WAR by a single player on this team is Bryce Strang with 3.7. Mind you, 3.7 at this point in the year is a very good season, but it is not an MVP caliber season at all. It's not a superstar season at all. And he is the highest on the entire team. Whereas the Cubs have a player like Pete Crow-Armstrong who has over 6 WAR at this point of the season. The Brewers don't have a Shohei Ohtani, a Freddie Freeman, a Mookie Betts, a Pete Crow-Armstrong, anyone like that. We didn't have a single batter who was an all-star this year. Mind you that we did have some pitchers like Freddie Peralta, Trevor McGill, and Jacob Mezorowski, who I will get to a little bit later. But this team has done one thing, and that has been steal bases really, really well. They are currently second in the MLB in stolen bases, only behind the Tampa Bay Rays, largely thanks to Chandler Simpson. And also, in addition, they are first in base running runs according to StatCast. They have 13 pro base running runs compared to the second place, which is only a +8. So that is a huge difference, and that largely comes from, again, the stolen bases, but also taking advantage of defenses, extending that single to a double, the double to a triple, or even when you're running around first, some teams would stop at second, they're willing to go to third. And this is a huge help because 1, it breaks up double play opportunities. 2, it puts your runners in scoring position where a sac fly can get you over instead of a lazy fly ball is able to produce a run instead of something that is only going to produce an out. And that is exactly what the Brewers are taking advantage of. They're also playing fundamentally sound baseball. They are keeping their errors to a minimum. They are currently in the top 10 in errors allowed per game, which has been really solid. And their outs above average is second in the MLB, again, according to StatCast. So their fielding is phenomenal. Their base running is phenomenal. And that doesn't even get to start when it comes to the pitching. Their pitching has been arguably their strongest spot, where they are second in ERA. And this is coming with a rotation that includes Freddie Peralta, Jacob Misiorowski, Brandon Woodruff, Quinn Priester, Jose Quintana is their primary rotation right now. Mind you, Freddie Peralta was the only player who was originally selected for the All-Star game. Jacob Misiorowski was able to get in. Mind you, there was some controversy marred around there. Whether you like it or not, he was an All-Star, and he's a very good pitcher. Currently, he's dealing with some injuries, but he'll be back soon. But then you really get into the players that are a little bit deeper into the rotation, like a Quinn Priester or a Jose Quintana. They go out there and they give you innings, and they've given solid quality innings. And then beyond that, the Brewers were missing arguably their best pitcher from the start of the season. He's been out basically the entire season until just recently, and that is Brandon Woodruff, who's come in and he's had an ERA sub 3 after having an entire season off because of injuries. So over a season and a half, he has been out and he's come back to the exact form that he was before, if not even better. So the Brewers have been able to take quality pitching talent, they've cleaned up around the edges and made them superstar caliber players. Like a Chad Patrick, the Brewers had to send down to the minor leagues to make room for Brandon Woodruff. And Chad Patrick had an ERA under 4 this season. Logan Henderson has spent the majority of his season with the Nashville Sounds in AAA, and he just gets called up basically when the Brewers feel like it, when they need somebody, and he has an ERA that is sub 2. The Brewers have a sub 2 guy sitting in AAA. And even more so, Tobias Myers, who was just called up for the game the other day, he came in last season, he had a 3 ERA as a rookie. They sent him down to AAA because he wasn't performing to the expectations that they would like. And now he's able to come up. The Brewers have such a depth of talent that they're able to take players from AAA who had a 3 ERA last season. That is unheard of by any other MLB team right now. And part of the reason that the Brewers started doing bad at the beginning of the season is because injuries started to mar them. But now at full health, they're looking like the best team in baseball, bar none. They have the best record in the MLB, and they are currently on track to have the most wins in Brewers history easily. To start off the season, the Brewers played the New York Yankees, where they went 0-4 in March. And then in April, they had a winning percentage of .593. And then in May, they had a winning percentage of .536. Then in June, they had a winning percentage of .640. And then in July, they had a winning percentage above .700. And then in August, they have been currently undefeated. So they were able to take a start and propel themselves to the best team in all of baseball and a legit World Series contender team. Not because that they have the star players like other teams do, like the Dodgers and the Cubs, but because they are able to have a solid, fundamental roster with players that do their job. Jackson Chourio, he does his job. Sal Frelick, he does his job. Isaac Collins does his job. Joey Ortiz, Jose Quintana, William Contreras, Christian Yelich even at this point. Yelich, I love Yelich, but he's not a star anymore, but he is doing his job. You have players who aren't afraid to lay a bunt down. They're willing to sacrifice their individual stats for the success of the team, and that is exactly what Pat Murphy has been so good at captivating, which is something that Craig Counsell hasn't been able to do. So with the power of friendship and with the power of pocket pancakes, the Brewers have been able to rise to a legit World Series contender team, all thanks to Pat Murphy and his great managerial tactics. That's all I got for you today. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow, do all the things you got to do. Thank you again for watching, and I'm out.